Good morning, folks. Triple Crown here, coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. It is Friday morning, Remembrance Day here in Canada, and Veterans Day across the border in the United States. This is a continuation of the Global War 1939 Special Units Edition. The topic of this episode is going to be transports. Now, one of the best players that I know says that a transport is the scariest piece on the board, because if you're not paying attention to it or you're going to ignore it, it can do some damage, whether it's sneaking in to take a capital that you didn't defend. But when you're the Axis, is definitely scary. If you are Germany and headed to the Eastern Front, and now you have the Americans and the British and the Canadians all threatening Western Europe. Or if you're Japan and you are pushing hard into China and going down into the Money Islands, and the Americans are building a fleet off in the Pacific to come get you. But if they don't have transports on the board, are they really a threat? So transports are an important piece in the game. They're still going to be able to load 2 units and move 2 spaces. The 2 units either being an infantry and another ground unit, whether that's an artillery or a tank or a AAA. But so that hasn't changed. So what has changed? Well, we changed one thing that some people are probably familiar with the maneuver, and that is the Sneaky Carl. So with the turn, you're going to declare war. If you have an enemy ship in your sea zone, you cannot load your transport. Well, we didn't like that rule. It's kind of felt it was a little bit gimmicky. So on the turn that you declare war, and if there's a hostile enemy ship in your sea zone, we're going to say that you can load your transports first and then declare war. This in particular, we felt for the Italian units, because they go on their first turn, they're not at war with anybody, so technically the UK could go Sneaky Carl them on the first turn, and we didn't think that was fair, so no more Sneaky Carl. The transports are not going to be able to attack, but they are going to defend at a 1, and they will be taken last as casualty. So I can't remember the original. I think they might have defended at 2 and against air units only. So they're going to defend it at 1, which isn't much. I know historically it's not perfect, but we thought giving them a 0 wasn't really fair either. In terms of new units, these are a lot of out-of-the-box sculpts. You can see this is a Italian transport, fantastic sculpt. These are some Japanese transports that I won that were painted. You can see the detail on those. I think these are the 1941 sculpts. You can see they got the higher smokestacks or rigging. I'm not sure what they are. And this is a sculpt that's available from HBG. Again, didn't like the surfboards, the out-of-box surfboard sculpts. Now, what's different is the Americans are the only nation they're going to have a different transport. This is a Haskell attack transport. You can see it's quite a bit bigger than the other transport. What it's going to do during amphibious attacks, it's going to give a +1 to the attacking units that are coming off that specific transport. The Americans obviously learned in the Pacific campaign all the amphibious stuff they were doing on all the islands, how to perfect that, and basically it was allowing infantry and other ground amphibious units to be sort of a coordinated amphibious attack. And that's what the attack transports did. These are out of box. You guys are all familiar with these sculpts. The Russian transport, which you don't see often in the game, but that's the out of box sculpt. The Vichy French transport, which is the authentic transport for the French in World War II. And this is another sculpt that's available at HBG, which is often for the neutrals. This is a Dutch transport. And then we all remember the original Axis and Allies, which I think these transports are pretty cool. This is a Portuguese transport, and a little bit smaller than the other transports, but I think it's a pretty cool transport as well. So there's not a lot of transport rules. The Americans, they have a special thing where they have their Liberty ships, so everybody's transports are going to cost 7 IPP. When America's at war, they went into heavy production, so their transports are going to cost 6 IPP. The Haskell transports are going to cost 8. And that's really it, folks. There's not a lot to be said here other than the mechanics of a transport. Obviously, we are saying that transports can unload if they're in the same sea zone. For example, if they're coming in here to Ceylon, they can unload in the same sea zone a unit in Ceylon and a unit in there. So they can unload, pick up 2 units and also unload. So that's the gist of transports. What are we going to talk about at the conclusion of the video? Well, today we are going to talk about confidence. Confidence is important because if you're a 50 goal scorer, nobody talks about when you're getting the 50 goal score and, in hockey about your confidence. But if you go, in a dry streak, everybody says you've lost your confidence. So this is important in a competitive situation. Thinking about the Banner Brothers series, I'm a big fan of some of the interviews done with Carwood Lipton. And he was talking about specifically in one of the interviews, the Battle of Bastogne. When they didn't have any warm clothes, they ran out of food or were low on food. They were cold, they were low on ammunition. And he talked about confidence. Confidence that they trusted their higher military authorities were going to eventually get them what they needed. So they weren't worried as a group. Their morale stayed high. And you also saw in the Bastogne, Winters walking around and talking to his troops and said the quote, "We're paratroopers, soldier. We are meant to be surrounded." Now, sometimes it's not necessarily whether you think you're going to win or lose, but when you're in the heat of the moment, if you're going to have a chance at survival or winning whatever it is, you have to have that belief, that confidence that whatever is going to happen, that you're going to be able to somehow, things are going to turn around and you are going to be able to somehow have a shot at winning. Now, this is important in Global War 1939 and other board games, because sometimes early in a game, the dice are not on your side. The deck seems stacked against you. And I can tell you from confidence in playing these games that the dice are finicky. Sometimes they will, if you're patient enough, they will turn. So you have to have that belief that if you lose all of your fighters early on to AAA, that you can still turn the game around. So that's my word of advice, folks, is try and remain confident as much as you can that things will turn, and they will not, I guarantee you, they will not turn if you lose your confidence. So you have to have that belief. You have to have that belief when you're rolling dice that you're going to get all ones. You have to have that belief that you still have a shot. So that's my message for today, folks. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned.